I'm John Seaman at the 13th Annual Chicago Historic Races at Road America, Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. This is a great event for vintage and historic classic racing cars from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. I'm kneeling beside one of the great cars of the Can-Am series, which ran in the 60s and 70s. This car was driven last year by Denny Hulme in the featured Can-Am race. I'm with Fred Siska, and he has one of the unique cars here today. This is a UOP Shadow, and it ran the Can-Am series in the early 70s. And Fred Siska has this car restored here today, and I'd like Fred to tell us a little bit about the car.
It's a 1971 Shadow. It's 2,500 pounds. It has a 496 cubic inch Chevrolet motor that produces approximately 780 horsepower. 4-speed Wiseman transmission, and at this track here, at back straight, it reaches somewhere around 7,000 RPM, and through the gearing that's set up, I would imagine somewhere around 180 to 195. Weighs, as I think I said, 2,500 pounds. The car was driven by Jackie Oliver in 1971, and also Bobby Alison in some of the select tracks. I've had the car for maybe 4 years now. Took a year and a half to put the vehicle back together as it is now, and been traveling through the country with my family and enjoying the events. And unfortunately, at this event, we broke down a little bit, but we'll be back again.
What are some of the other events that you have driven the car in then?
We've driven it in several Laguna events in Monterey in California in August, Sears Point, Willow Springs, Portland, San Diego. Last year we were here, Watkins Glen a couple of years ago, which was an exciting event. So it had approximately 24 events on it now, and it's been a good car for us, a lot of fun.
How did the restoration go? Was it difficult to get the car back together?
Yeah, it was this is not like a McLaren where there are numerous vehicles available. This is one of two. The other vehicle, its sister, is in Germany in a museum. This vehicle here took an extensive amount of searching for parts, and we had a lot of success with people like Dan Gurney's group through the IndyCar program, because some of the parts of this car came and were used in the Indy cars also. So just a lot of connections. We had a lot of help in general trying to get it together. It was an 18-month project, full-time deal.
The car, now does this one have the smaller wheel diameters on it?
No, that was the first car they built. Okay. That had the tiny little wheels on it, and even if you had one of those now, you couldn't get tires for it. So, and George Follmer, who was here driving another car, I spoke to him last year at Monterey, and he made mention of what a morphodite that was to drive. It was unbelievable. So.
George Follmer has been one of the more colorful figures here at Road America, and in fact through the whole Can-Am series. And he has been racing for how many years? Since we're not going to say.
I think I had to quit counting. I lost, I ran out of fingers and toes.
But when it comes to Can-Am racing, George is one of the key people that has been most active in the sport throughout all of the 60s, late 60s and 70s. And I'd like George to tell us a little bit about his history in racing, perhaps, his thoughts about Road America, which I'm sure are key in your mind, and a little bit about the car.
Well, I think, first of all, I came here in 1965 the first time and won my first time here. And basically, since my first United States Road Racing Championship here at Road America in 1965. So it's been a good track for me, and we've come back, I've run Trans Am here and 5,000, Can-Am. It's just been one of these kind of places where I think all the competitors, who, no matter what kind of car they drive, always looks forward to coming to Road America.
It was somewhat saddening with Denny Hulme's death last year, and I know that has affected all of the true Can-Am drivers, and I know you raced against Denny for quite a few years. Is there any one special race or that sticks out in your mind with Denny Hulme?
Well, I think, of course, the last race, Denny and I had a good go at Monterey in October. He drove an M20 that he had raced against me in '72, and I was in the M8F that I'm going to drive here at Road America. And we had a good race there, and we enjoyed running against each other. Actually, our careers go back. We ran Can-Am together, and then when I was doing Formula One in Europe, Denny was with McLaren and I was with Shadow. So we had a lot of track time together, and he's the kind of guy you could race with. You just run right in the corner with him. You knew he wasn't going to take you out, slam the door on you, and I think he had the same confidence in me, and it was just fun. It was fun racing. So he certainly will be missed, and he was fun to have in the garage area, and he's fun to have on the track.
Now, we just talked to Fred up around the corner with the UOP Shadow, and I know you raced for that team also, and most of your years, though, were spent with McLaren. No, with Lola, too, right?
Well, I did a lot of stuff with Lola. I started my Can-Am career with Lola T70, and the first year of Can-Am was 1966. And then I stayed with Lola for quite a while, and of course, I did stuff with Porsche, and came back with the Porsche in '72, won with that, and so I had a lot of experience. The Shadow efforts were mostly Formula One in '73, and of course I was the first Can-Am driver Shadow had when they had the real teeny
right?
car. I ran that in the first Can-Am in '66, so it was. It's been a kind of a diverse career, and then I went to Shadow in Formula One, and then we did the Can-Am and with the DN4s in 1974, Jackie Oliver and myself, and that was a very fine car.
Could you take a minute and describe the specifications of this McLaren?
Well, this is an M8F, which was basically a customer-built car. It wasn't a team car as such. There was supposed to be some differences, and there usually was. But this was a customer-built car. It was built, run by Bill Cuddy in the Can-Am, I think, in 1970. So it's now owned by a fellow named Chuck Lamb in California, and he takes a lot of pride in it. And as you can see, it's very well built and prepared, and we think it's a very fine representation of the 1970 Can-Am car.
Is this, what size engine is this?
Well, we just describe it as large.
Yeah.
No, most of the engines in the Can-Am series, towards the end of it, it's 72, 3, 4. Most of the engines were right around 492 cubic inch. There were a few in 74 and even in 72 that were what were referred to as 510s, 510 cubic inches, and this falls in that range.
Kirt, and he's on Joe Wally's team, and Joe Wally is the owner of this Peter Revson Lola. Could you tell us about the car?
The car was originally built in 1969. It raced, Peter Revson raced it in the 1969 Can-Am Series, and then in 1970 Dave Causey drove it to third in the points championship in the Can-Am Series. And it's went through about 12 owners, and we ended up with the car. We restored it. We've been racing it over the past year in the vintage races. So,
what other tracks have you been at besides Road America?
we run anywhere from Laguna all the way down to Moroso in West Palm, and Atlanta, out to Watkins Glen in New York, and all over the country, basically.
How long has the car been restored?
We got the car done being restored about I'd say over winter last year we did it. But we've been doing about 3 or 4 of them a year, so they go out pretty quick.
Okay. It's a Chevy motor in it. What is the displacement in horsepower approximately?
In this one here, we've got a 482. This one here, we've got a 482 all aluminum Chevrolet big block. It puts out over 800 horsepower, about 700 foot-pounds of torque.
Barry Tillman has a 1958 Ferrari Testa Rossa 250. This is one of the very rare cars here this weekend. Would you tell us about it?
I've had the car for about 4 years. Right now she's had about 22 races on her. And the motor's getting a little tired. It's due for a rebuild. I think we're going to try to get in the shop this winter and rebuild the whole motor. It's wearing out, but it's still holding up all right. It still runs good. It's not as fast in my class as the other cars, but that's the whole fun of vintage racing. It's not how fast you go, it's how safe you can be and how much fun you can have doing it.
What is some of the history of the car, and when did you acquire it?
I've had the car about 4 years. The car originally was built as a 250 GT. It was crashed, and it was re-bodied as a Testa Rosa body. The frame is still the original GT frame. Every part on the car is the original part. The motor was redone in England about 1980. The body was done about 1977 from the original body box, the body blocks, the body bucks, the jigs, and everything. So it's as correct as it can be. I don't know of anything else I can tell you about it.
What is a memorable experience? You like running at Road America? How is that track?
This is probably the most enjoyable track to race on because there's a lot of runoff room, and with cars with power you can really keep them moving pretty well. The only problem that I have with this track is that down in the loop, you call it your the carousel. I just can't get the speed up that I want to get and try to maintain a line. So we just sort of go through that as fast as we can go and hope we got a line.
Now, what size is the motor?
It's a 3-liter engine. It's the standard 250. These cars were originally in the original. This configuration was actually the 500 TRC body, which is the early body as compared to the pontoon fendered. These originally came with 4-cylinder motors with about 2-liter engines. Most of the private owners that had these, of the 20 that were built, have redone them in a 3-liter V12, with the exception of about 3 that are still known to exist in original configuration. One was just sold in Monaco about 2 years ago, and the other 2, one's in a collection in Europe, and I think the other one's in a Japanese collection at the moment.
Jim Bartel is the owner of the Simonize Lola. Could you tell us the year and some of the history of the car?
This is the 1969 Haas team car from that year. It was driven by Chuck Parsons originally and ran here at Elkhart Lake, finishing third in 1969. In fact, Elkhart Lake was the first time the high wing was used by Haas on this car, and it ran that way after that for all the races. It ran a big block Chevy. It started out the year in an iron block and then got a aluminum block as the year went along. It finished third in the championship that year, and of course 69 was the year that McLaren won them all, but they were very close with this one.
How long have you had the car, and how long has it been restored?
I bought the car 5 years ago. It had been club race and was painted tan with brown stripes and was sponsored by Manchester Sewer Systems. So it was in a typical condition for what that said. And we restored it 4 years ago and have been running it ever since. The car has run well over 20 races. Craig Bennett, who drives the car, at the time was just an acquaintance, now is my son-in-law. And he drives it, and he's won 13 or 14 of the events that he's raced in since then.
Did you go to the Can-Am reunion here last year, and how about at Atlanta?
We were to all the Can-Am reunions. We won the first two, 1 and 2 at one at Watkins Glen, 2 at Atlanta. Last year here was a forgettable year, and we had engine problems, so we didn't finish. And it was one of the few times we haven't. But this year we're hopeful things are much better. Craig's starting on the pole, not on the pole, but on the front row, and his brother Kurt's on the pole, so it's a fun weekend.
Well, you'll have George Follmer out there too, so he'll help mix them up.
He certainly will. I think it's this one looks like of all the reunions is going to be the most competitive up front, and George will keep everybody honest for sure.
Sorry? Yeah, we're going to go a couple of minutes here. Come back in. Moffet has one of the original Can-Am cars. Could you tell us some of the history of the car?
The car was originally owned by Warren Agor, chassis number 5. It was one of the 9 customer cars built by McLaren, and it ran in the Can-Am series back in the original days. We have the original logbook and documentation, things like that. It's painted in Team McLaren colors. The original Team McLaren M8F that Denny drove in 1971 no longer exists. There's a car that is a continuation, but no parts remain in the original actual car. Doesn't mean it's not an important car. This car was driven last year by Denny Hulme, just as you see it, and it's the same as a works car would have been. We heard we've got him on video, and he's saying he'll be back this year to drive it, and but unfortunately October 4th he died, and so he didn't make it. The car's ready, but Denny's gone, and we brought it up here just as a kind of a memorial to him. He's the last person to have driven it.
Are you planning on taking it out again, or what are your plans for the car?
The plans are, unless I can campaign it seriously, to drive it seriously, to just have it with him the last driver. The cars are of a potential that they're much more fun to drive in a serious manner and serious preparation, and that takes some time and money. But I'm glad that some of the cars today were out there and really put on a good show.
This is a very special car, and it has a lot of special meaning to everyone here.
Yeah, thank you. It's one of 9, and fortunately they're finding bits and pieces and resurrecting the cars. Fortunately, this is a pretty intact car and a good example.
Founder of the Chicago Historic Races. This is a 13th annual event. Joe, could you tell us about some of the Ferraris you have here today?
Oh, yes, I'd love to. In fact, you mentioned 13 years ago. I remember the first event I had. As I look around the paddock now, we had 35 entries and 27 were Ferraris, and that's because I actually started the event for some friends of mine that we were buying and selling Ferraris, and that was 13 years ago when the Ferraris were just starting to be acclaimed as the world's greatest sports and race cars. These cars here today are from the 330 that you can see in the tent to the car that's next to me, the 275 GTB 2.6 carburetor. Behind here is an F40, the world-famed F40 that's been prepared for racing. Behind is the Testa Rosa, and then there's a P4, as you can look back behind here. Two re-bodied cars, which you can see in the tent, one being a short wheelbase and one being a GTO Spider. The factory never made a GTO Spider, but there's some people that commissioned some of our people to make one in the last year. So Ferraris are our love, but we attract many more cars than just Ferraris.
The event keeps growing every year, and a spectator event is just wonderful to be able to come in and see the cars.
Well, I think what vintage historic racing means that it's a non-professional sport. I mean, most of the people that bring their cars here and are racing are not paid by anybody. They are self-supporting. If we're lucky enough to get one small sponsor, someone to help us, that's fine. But I think it's something that everyone can enjoy. The driver, we have an open paddock policy, which means that people can come up with their children and talk about cars that they used to know, or let kids see cars that are not on the streets or not racing anymore today. And I think it's a sport that will keep growing because of that. It's for everyone.
One of the big draws is the Can-Am cars, and we just saw the feature race, and it was fabulous.
Oh, yes. The Can-Am cars were strictly an American thing that happened in the 60s and 70s, and Road America was a very big part of the Can-Am series. Because Road America is such a wonderful wide track and a long track with a long straight, these cars can really get up to speed and really roar through the chicane and through the trees on the other side, which means that it's exciting all the way around. And so the Can-Am drivers love to come back with their cars. You have some of the old drivers driving here today, and you have, of course, some who have acquired the cars lately, but who are trying very hard to be able to drive these monsters of the Speedway.
What is your favorite Ferrari?
My favorite Ferrari has always been the short wheelbase. I believe that was the real purpose of what Ferrari was all about. He made a car that you could drive around the street during the week, and then on weekend you could take it to your favorite little racetrack and race it. And the short wheelbase to me is still my favorite car, and it's a car that I think that is not only easy to drive but enjoyable on the street and on the track.
What are your plans for next year? Same thing?
Well, I think more and more of the same. I think a big part of the weekend now has become the Concours d'Elegance. We have a race car concourse on a Friday night and a road car concourse on a Saturday night at the main street at Siepkens, between Barefoot Bay and Siepkens. And it's getting bigger every year. There just seems to be a tremendous continued interest in cars and restoring cars and bringing them out. And Wisconsin is a tremendously wealthy country, part of the country where it has a lot of great collections, a lot of great cars. And I really get a thrill out of meeting someone maybe from Plymouth or from Cedarburg or from some little town in Wisconsin or Minnesota, and they've had a collection of cars, and they say, thank you for letting us have an event of this type where I can bring my car and enjoy with other people. I think that's a part that's growing. As far as the racing, I think it'll grow each year. We have not announced a featured mark. I think the Can-Am cars will come back next year, and I think next year we're going to do the anniversary for the GT40s, which of course is another great mark, an American mark that dominated racing also in the middle 60s. And Road America is another track where those big monsters can really stretch them out. I've always kept it with a Como Inn, which is my restaurant in Chicago, is the main sponsor. And I have a tremendous thrill through the years, through January, February, March, around Christmas, when people come in from Wisconsin, Minnesota, and said, oh, we remember seeing you, and remember hearing about your Como Inn when you were at Chicago Historic Races. And that makes me feel good, and that really keeps this race going. So when you're in Chicago, please stop in and see me at the Como Inn. It's right on the corner of Milwaukee and Ohio. Everybody knows the Como Inn. Thank you.
And Joe is certainly a very special person to be able to put forth the effort that he has done in the Chicago Historic Races. Thank you, Joe. Dave Causey is one of the original racers in the Can-Am series. He started racing in 1956. Dave, can you tell us some of your early racing history?
Well, I used to have started out with about a 140 Jag, had a 120 for about 2 weeks, and I traded it in because the clutch was gone. Then 140 to 150. With the 140, I brought it up here. Never seen the course before. It was about 5 o'clock in the morning. I said, "What is this?" It sort of spooked me, but that's the first race I won up here in our, in the production race. And then we went, from several other cars. I used to own this one too. Both of these were mine at one time.
So you started the original Can-Am series, one of the first ones?
Not the first one. I believe it was the second year, 70 and 71.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. And which car did you start running the series in?
T163 right over here. And it was a lot of fun, let me tell you. They've got such big motors now. It's been, 22 years ago. And I took this one out today. Bud wanted me to take it out, Bud Bennett. And I'll tell you, I couldn't believe the power, the difference. Because we had a 465 in this one. But that 550 he has really moves. Of course, I had my wife with me, so I couldn't get too carried away.
What memory do you have that kind of sticks out in your mind from the Can-Am series?
Well,
competing with Hulme or any of the other drivers, can you remember any specific incidents?
Well, I had a good crash over at Mid-Ohio in this one. This is completely rebuilt. Denny dropped, he was using his half shaft broke, I guess, the inboard brakes, and I expected him to spin out off the course on the first turn, first lap, but he didn't, so I had no choice but to spin or hit him head on, which I didn't want to do. I was blocked in by a German and a Jap. Yep, I had Hiroshi Kazato on one side, and I can't even think of his name right offhand. Macherbacher, Lothar Macherbacher on the other. No place to go, and I'm heading right for him. Nothing he could do because it was, so quick. That was rather spooky. But it didn't help the car any either when we hit, his or mine. No choice.
Well, it must be so much fun for you to come back and see these cars.
Oh, it is. This place is beautiful. They've really changed things around. I love it. And another time, up here we got a third in Atlanta, a second in this car over here.
Very good.
But, I'll tell you, I love this one here. It's just the guy that drove it, very tall, and I had a hard time getting, Bud had 4 rolls of paper, behind the seat, so I could get halfway comfortable because I couldn't even reach the pedals.
When it comes to Can-Am racing, one of the most colorful figures in Can-Am racing, this is the original Can-Am series, that is Oscar Kovoleski. Oscar has a good sense of humor, and he knows the cars, and he knows the series. Oscar, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think that the series was probably the greatest racing series of all time during that period, the golden years. It started in '66 and went on to '74 when the Porsches came along. But the glamour or the color or the excitement of it all was that these were probably the highest horsepowered cars in the world. We were faster than Grand Prix cars, faster than Indy cars, and faster than NASCAR. I mean, NASCAR wasn't really born yet. And there wasn't much about auto racing in the newspaper or television, so if you loved auto racing, you came to the racetrack. And in those days, we had a thing about, there was 10 races for $1 million. And that was a lot of money. These cars were very powerful, 600, 700, 800 horsepower. We ran 200 miles on tracks like this wonderful racetrack you have here, Road America, which I really think is the greatest racetrack in the world. If you measure them by people and the friendliness and all the cooperation we've always had here at Road America. And Road America in the Can-Am days was a treasure to us, and it's a treasure to us now, and it's really a pleasure to be back here.
Now, this is the car that you drove in what year?
Well, this is a semi-real car, and we ran this in 1971. And this is the Joe B. McLaren, and the interesting thing about this, it was the first radio control model car company that sponsored a racing team in the Can-Am series.
and we had a 1/12 scale gas-powered radio control car replica model of this car that we sold. And in order to promote or develop radio control car racing, we used to take the little car and we'd run it around the real racetrack prior to the event. And I'd have to follow it in an open convertible so that I could see it and steer it. And we established track records on Mid-Ohio and Riverside and Laguna Seca for 1/12 scale radio control cars that I don't think have been broken yet, simply because there wasn't anybody crazy enough to go out there and try and break them. But we had a great lot of fun with it, and sold millions of dollars worth of radio control cars, and those hobbyists and everything out there recognize that this is probably the most famous real racing car in the world that helped promote and got radio control car racing going, and that was 1971. So you know how big that is today. So this car was really a cornerstone in that promotion.
You were telling me earlier about the fuel cells on each side of the driver and how the weight changes as the race goes on. How do you correct for that?
Well, in the center of the car on both sides, if you look at the side pods and then under the seat, it's like an H. And I think in this car we had about 85 gallons of high-octane fuel. And 85 gallons at 6 pounds per gallon was what? 6/8 is 480 pounds. The car, I think, weighed dry 1,600 pounds. The front end weighed about 500, 600 pounds. The back end weighed about 1,000 pounds. So while it was in the center of the mass, it wouldn't change the handling so bad. But what would change, because we had no way on board to adjust springs or sway bars or anything like that they have today. So, and we could not change the tire pressures, and we had no pit stops like in NASCAR to correct any inequities we may have built in the car that started. And then we'd always get oil on the track, and we'd get rubber on the track, or the weather would change. So you always were dealing with a compromising situation, all right? But we did lose a lot of weight. We should have gotten faster as we were racing longer because we were getting lighter, but it's like the track sometime was getting worse and worse to race on, because these cars, some of them were leakers. You know, we had oil, we had all those kind of things that we had to deal with. But they were very hard to drive on the basis that if you look at a Can-Am car, you sit in the cockpit, and I hope you have a chance to sit in one and look out and take the camera with you, and when you see those two big fenders and you say, I'm trying to find the road, you're going to say, my God, how do these guys ever find the road to race on?
How about in the rain, too?
Well, in the rain, these cars were almost unmanageable because the problem that you had, they had very wide tires, which aquaplaned, and this suspension was very, very stiff to manage to hold that weight to keep the springs from compressing as you did the braking, you know? So in the rain, you had to be, you had a tippy toe.
Well, Oscar, it's been fun talking to you, and hope you have a great weekend here.
We've had a wonderful weekend. Our team is, we're just pleased to be here, and we love Road America, and we hope y'all, we'll be back next year. So everybody out there in Wisconsin, Chicago, wherever you are, come on and see the golden years of Can-Am racing, because we're going to have it next year here at Road America.
starts being given on grid now for our exhibition Group 9 cars. This will be a 5-lap exhibition. These cars are not going to be a 5-lap race. Then we'll get underway.